No, Christ, that's not what I want. Get off. Adobe Premiere. That's fine, fuck it. Hello?
Yeah.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it might be a little shaky at times. The internet's not great here, but it's better than I expected, so.
Okay. I got this new earpiece too, and I wasn't sure how that works.
Yeah, I can hear you real good. Should be alright.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, they're doing pretty good things with these things now.
So, what's going on, man?
Just chilling. Repeated the last call a couple times, took some notes, wrote down some things that I want to ask you about. Give me just a second. Get rid of this thing here. It'll distract me all the fucking time. And then I picked up that book too. Well, that's actually a really good read. It's I like when they do that with some of these books, like the one David Day book, where the chapters are only like 2-3 pages, and you can kind of just read it in the bathroom for a couple minutes or whatever.
Yeah, more bite-sized.
Yeah, so far that one's pretty good though.
I recommended Scott Adams, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, the Dilbert book.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I did. I don't know. I don't even know really. I mean, piggybacking off of what we talked about last time. Let me see. Oh, I was hoping you could. And we don't have to go into too much as far as the 5 tiers or the 4 tiers. I was trying to write those down, but my handwriting, I fucked up my hand, so I can't even read too much what I was writing. But if you have, I know you mentioned the webinar when we talked.
I mentioned what?
But also, you mentioned a webinar that you did about those.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't really need the webinar necessarily, but I can explain them to you. I mean, I can explain the 5 tiers if you want me to. You want me to go into that again?
No, I mean, you touched on it pretty good last time. That or if you have any, like, PDFs, or I can just look it up, too, I guess.
Oh, no, because, the 5 tiers were never really it was never really some sort of core teaching or anything. It was just a way for guys to sort of map out where they can go, what's possible. That's really, just that first the first section in Sexual Supremacy where I talk about what's possible. A good way to think about that, and I didn't record it at the time in Sexual Supremacy, but the concept of the 5 tiers of men and what each tier means. I just think for me, when I originally came up with it, it was just to explain to guys, how can I put it? A lot of times, well, a lot of times when when people ask me, what I do, what kinds of things I teach, and then I'll say something like, well, I help guys be more successful with women in terms of meeting them, relationships, improving your sex life, etc. Throughout the past 10 years plus that I've been doing this, sometimes I'll get like incredulous reactions where people are like, really, like people pay for that, or that's something that guys need. The funny reactions are when guys will act like, really, guys need that? Oh, jeez. It's like, shut the fuck up, you know what I mean? Huh?
Almost like they got everything figured out.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah, it's all ego, and it's the guy responding in a way where he's trying to show me that, like, being frustrated with women, regardless of what that means, whether it's being able to, not being able to meet them, not being able to get dates or have good relationships, is it's just so far out of his reality, you can't even imagine. It's that. But sometimes people will not really understand. So, like, the other reaction that I'll sometimes get, half the time the reactions are people are really interested and curious about it. Like, oh, that's cool, that's really interesting, da 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 da. Then 25% is guys saying, oh, I can't believe that anyone would need help. And then the other one is people will say, like, oh, so you just teach guys how to be more confident. And it's like, no, not at all. It's not even close to what I teach. But they want to sort of dumb it down because where they are at, each one of these people is somewhere on those 5 tiers, and they don't even realize it. So it's a way for me to give you awareness of your awareness. The whole concept of unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence, where it's, you're just operating naturally and intuitively because you've internalized the concepts. Everyone sort of falls somewhere in that, and by everyone I'm just talking about guys, straight guys, but that 5th tier is, I think everyone can understand those first 4 levels. It's that 5th tier that I've never heard anyone talk about. I've never heard anyone talk about a 5th tier or a 5th level in business or anywhere else. And it's in my opinion, that's really the highest level, is where you can be able to transition. You have mobility. You're able to transition from level 3 to level 4. So the mobility itself of being able to say, okay, I want to get a different result. I want to consciously change what's happening in my life. You jump down to 3, or even 2. You jump down to 2 and say, okay, it's actually jumping down to 2. Really, is what it is. And you say, okay, I'm aware, I'm conscious that I'm incompetent, that I'm not getting the result I want. You work on it. You move into conscious competence, so you move up a level of awareness very quickly, and then you very quickly after that move into unconscious competence, to where now you're just naturally doing that. You're whatever it is that you need to do. You're naturally operating in a way that gets you the result you want, and then and then you.
I guess because we covered that pretty well actually last time too.
Yeah, it's just having that mindset of being a student, and as guys, man, we want to do everything right, and when we don't, we feel like failures, and it's just not obviously it's not realistic, it's not reality. You're not a failure because you messed something up, but also that's not on a practical level a good mindset to have, because it leads to you shutting down instead of looking for solutions. And
that's actually one of the other notes I have here too. It's I cut you off there. Sorry about that. But, intentionally creating the positive feedback loops. Maybe we can just segue into that. But finish what you were saying there before I cut you off.
Oh no, I mean I pretty much made my point. But the positive feedback loop stuff. Feedback loops are interesting because when we're constantly tied up in feedback loops. So you can even make a case that karma is some sort of feedback loop. You know, if you believe in you know, either the soul, the identity, or the pure consciousness having multiple rounds of incarnations. But then, you know, if you don't necessarily want to go that far, but you just you know, you believe that like energy is neither created or destroyed, and so that, you know, whatever it is that makes you alive, whatever life is, you know, that carries on whether you're, you know, a physical moving human or you know, your worm food or whatever it is. And so that's like the big picture feedback loop. But then on a more microcosmic level, everything is a feedback loop. And to make it more complicated is it's all open systems. It's all open feedback systems. But the way that feedback loops work in terms of psychology and improving yourself, I shouldn't say improving yourself, but learning and growing. It's like so much of what we do is based in our beliefs. Our beliefs create a lens through which we see reality, right? And you don't even know it. That's the thing. It's like, I think I talked about this in SS, but if you put on someone else's glasses, like, you know, we all like to try on people's glasses. We have a friend who's nearsighted or farsighted. We try on their glasses. We say, "Whoa, you're blind." You know, it's funny. And then, but if you kept those glasses on for a while, you'd actually forget. Actually, a better analogy is when we put on sunglasses. You just, after a while, you forget that you got the sunglasses on. And then you take them off and everything's really bright and you realize, oh yeah, I had my sunglasses on. Our beliefs create our perspective, our worldview. Beliefs are formed by feedback loops. And a real obvious example of this would be, let's say, you're a normal person. Most people are normally pretty shy when they're kids, at least. You know,
I was.
Yeah, I mean, I think most kids are shy for the most part, at least when they're meeting other kids or meeting new people or in a different environment, a new environment. So that's normal to be shy, right? To be a little timid or a little hesitant in a new situation. And if you then fast forward to maybe like puberty, 15, 16, you know, you're horny, you're looking at girls now. You're given all these bad messages. Society gives you all these bad messages about how you're supposed to impress women, how you're supposed to be tough, how you're supposed to be strong. The fact that you got a ton of testosterone, you're moody, you're insecure, you got pimples, your voice is cracking. You want to be big and strong, but you're really not quite there yet. So there's all these natural insecurities. There's also the bad brainwashing that happens in our society. And so, you know, you try to talk to some girl that you're attracted to, and you do or say something awkward, or maybe you don't, but because she's feeling uncomfortable with her own self, going through the same things just as a female, she might give you a strange response, or she might. One thing that women will do, or young women will do, girls, teenagers will do, is when they feel uncomfortable, they'll project how they're feeling onto others. So like if they feel like they're awkward or uncomfortable, they'll kind of like do an eye look, like look to the side, like awkward, there's something strange is going on, and they're the normal ones trying to cope with it. This is just a self-defense mechanism. So what'll happen is the boy will perceive that and say, "Oh, I must have said or did something. I must have said or done something weird or inappropriate." Or if he just actually tries to ask the girl out, she rejects him, she turns him down in some way. He'll read too much into that, and that will start a feedback loop, a negative feedback loop, where now the boy says, "Okay, well that girl didn't like me. It's like the first girl he ever actually tried to, pursue, and didn't work out. So the next time around, if he tries again, he's going to be less. He's going to have a lower sense of self-efficacy. He's going to be worried about looking awkward, which makes you act awkward. The girl's going to be projecting. So you can see all these variables are going into this feedback loop, all these pieces. And then the next time around, he's more likely to do something awkward, and et cetera, et cetera. And by the time he's in his 20s, he's like nervous about talking to girls. On the flip side, some guys are lucky in the fact that there's two things that can happen. One is you can actually get a girlfriend when you're really young, and once you have a girlfriend, like your first girlfriend, as long as it doesn't turn into a complete disaster, like my first girlfriend was a complete disaster and really fucked up my self-esteem and created some negative beliefs for myself. But the average guy, his first girlfriend, is going to be his first kiss, first hand-holding, first make-out, maybe first sex. She's going to relax. She's not going to play her. She's not going to continue to keep her defense mechanisms up. She's going to open up, and he's going to realize, like, just being male is enough to make a girl happy, and to be. It's enough for us to have fun together. Just the fact that I'm a man and I'm shaped the way I am, I'm built the way I am, my voice, my thought process, my sense of humor. And a big thing about all of this is recognizing that your penis is really great. Like, women really like it, and it's that in itself is such a powerful, empowering belief to have. To really believe, like, women like my dick, and there are so many men who get into their 50s and even 60s, 70s, they go their whole life not really believing that. And you got to think, like, as a man, what's the first thing you want to do when you see an attractive woman? You want to pull your dick out and stick it in her. I mean, that's just your impulse, right? And of course...
Exactly. But I think, too, like, you think about, and maybe not so much now, I don't know, like, my brother still holds on to the religion thing a lot more than I did. But, you think about, like, we went up in a religious family. You're taught, like, your penis is this dirty thing, or, you know what I mean? Like, you go up the line, or it's like, adults actually say stupid shit like that to kids, and it's like, or at least as far as our generation and older, but it's like, think about what you're doing to this person, especially at such a young age when they're growing and developing. So, that's even in itself kind of that's a negative feedback loop, really.
Yeah, different cultures are different. So, like, I've heard that in Dominican and maybe Puerto Rican cultures, a baby boy, the females and the relatives will actually fondle him, and I've even heard of like the women like kissing his penis and like sucking on it a little bit. Like, you don't really hear about this in mainstream culture, but it's sort of like celebrating the boy's manhood. And I don't know if that's just limited to like Dominican culture, and I don't think that's exactly normal. That may be something that happens more in more of the lower classes. And I've never seen it personally, but I have heard about that. And that's just one example of a situation. It's so the end result is, this boy is going to feel very. He's going to have a much different feedback loop than a boy who's maybe taught that his genitals are dirty and stuff. There's also the aspect of it's not as straightforward as just saying, well, we're taught to be ashamed about our sexuality, because what I'm thinking about right now is that what's the one thing we cover up, right? Like, what's the most basic thing that you have to have on if you're going to be in public, or even in your own home if there's other people around, and that is, you cover up your
for guys, your genitals.
Your genitals, yeah, and it's for women too, and I think a big part of that is just safety and keeping warm. I mean, a lot of I don't want to walk around with my dick out. Like, I don't want to bump into some rail as I'm going up the stairs. I don't want to drop anything on it. I don't want to spill hot coffee on it. There's also a cleanliness aspect. Your ass. You don't want to be sitting in public with your ass out, and so there are these other factors for why we cover up those parts of us. But then it starts to get normalized that part of you should be covered, and that creates a feedback that plays into the feedback loop as well of like, well, I don't want to. But that part of me is inappropriate, or that part of me is not good. I should hide it. And then definitely religion can play a big factor in that. But also, you don't even necessarily have to be religious for people to to have parents that are like, can have they themselves can have a sense of shame about it. The other thing about it, though, it's easy to get all riled up and say, oh, we're taught to be ashamed of our sexuality, but a lot of it, like I said, comes just from sanitary concerns, safety concerns, weather. If it's cold out, obviously you don't want to be running around naked. But the other thing is, I think there's a balance that needs to be, how can I put it? There's sort of a constant shifting of equilibrium, of homeostasis. There's constant adjustment and readjustment. You don't want sex to be too easy and casual, because a couple things can happen. Number one, it can create a lot of problems to where everyone's fucking and no one gets anything done. You want to see what that looks like, go ahead and go over to any country in Africa that can't seem to get their infrastructure together because they evolved in a place where food was plentiful. There was no need to plan anything, and so no one ever made, for example, a wheel or a sail or a road or plumbing. And you can see how just fucking and eating all the time is fine in a certain environment, but then it's not so great when things change. And it's actually important to be able to do things like farm and build things, have maybe a building that's more than one story high, have plumbing, have sanitation, have waste disposal, these kinds of things. The other thing about that, on a more psychological aspect, is I almost wonder if sex would lose its appeal if it was too easy. like if people were just fucking in the streets all the time. I wonder if that could even be possible, because people would not want it as much. I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing. I've heard people talk about this before. Is Alan Watts talking about how we sort of need a little bit of a shame and an embarrassment and a wall or a barrier between man and woman in the sexual connection, because it makes it more fun. And you when you really look at that and think about it, I almost wonder if that barrier in itself is our subconscious creating it for ourselves so that we can enjoy sex even more. I mean, if you think about flirting is fundamentally sexual attraction with a barrier. And the definition of flirting is really expressing sexual interest in a way that the other person can't tell if you're serious or not. They can't tell if you're joking or serious. And that sort of implies that there's a barrier there. The barrier would be basically that you don't necessarily want to have, you don't actually want to have sex with a person, and that you're joking about having sex with that person. Not necessarily talking about sex, but talking about, indicating physical attraction. And so that's more fun, right? Like, we enjoy flirting, right? We enjoy sexual tension. Women especially. I mean, for guys, I don't know if we enjoy it as much, right? We just want to get to it a lot of times. But I know that for me, like when I lived with a woman who had probably one of the most amazing bodies I've ever physically seen in real life. And she would, when we lived together, she would walk around naked a lot, or just in her panties or whatever. And it's weird, but after a couple weeks, I just sort of was like not as excited about her, because I was always seeing her naked. It was when she actually put clothes on that I would get turned on for it, because I wanted to overcome, right? There was a barrier that I wanted to overcome. It was more exciting. It was more of a challenge, I guess.
I actually run into that at work too. Like, with some of these women, they don't even make me try.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't enjoy it. Like it's almost like a chore for me.
Well,
and you hate to say that, because you want it to be fun, you want to enjoy this other person, but at the same time, it's just like, it's okay for you to put up a little bit of a fight, like.
Yeah. And
you don't want to sound. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but there are women out there that are like that.
Yeah. Women definitely appreciate the barrier, but as guys, we do too. Like, I know for me personally, I have a few women that are like super responsive on texting. And even though I like them, I kind of put them on the back burner. Like, if there's 3 girls that I want to text and stay in touch with and see, maybe want to hang out with one of them this week or this weekend, it's the one that's super responsive to me that I'm going to text last. She's almost going to be like my backup. And that's tough to say. And I actually was in a relationship with a girl where I loved her. I just thought she was an awesome person, but she just put me above everything else. And I never felt like there was a challenge, or like, I never felt like I had to be better, like I had to work on myself. As a man, you don't want to be stagnant, you want to try to be a better man than you were yesterday. And with her, I didn't have to do that. I could get away with murder. And it's really sad, when I think about it, it's really sad. And I had a lot of guilt and anger at myself because I was not passionate about her. Even though we had been in a relationship for a long time, I genuinely loved her. And I cared about her as one of my best friends, as a partner, there was nothing about her that I really didn't like. But that sort of that challenge or that tussle, that struggle, that sort of barrier was never there. There was never a standard that I had to sort of meet. And I know, like, I'm always harping about guys put women on pedestals, and that's a bad frame to have, where you see her as better than you. But as I get older and I start thinking more about long-term partners, I have to, really think, do I want a girl who's just going to put up with whatever bullshit I do? Or do I want someone who's going to maybe call me out? And I was just texting a girl that I used to date back in New York City, and she's a beautiful girl. Obviously, we've been intimate and stayed in touch for years, and something about her really excites me. Like, whenever I was around her, like, I always wanted to just grab her and just bend her over and pound her. Like, every time I looked at her, I wanted to do that. I remember the last day I was in New York City, we spent the day together, and we fucked in this park. We fucked behind a tree. Like, I just couldn't get my dick wouldn't go down around her. But she and I argue and like fight a lot. Not fight where it's like a serious fight, but like I don't know. Now that we're in 2018, like, I've just become a huge fan of Donald Trump, and she fucking hates Donald Trump. And so, like, I'll tease her about it. Like, today I texted her. I was like, what time is it there? Because I'm in a different time zone. I was like, what time is it there? She's like, midnight. Why? And I was like, wrong, period. It's MAGA time. It's just a stupid joke, and she was just like, you're horrible, what's wrong with you, like, da-da-da-da-da, just talking shit. And for some reason, that little tussle, if she had been here with me, like, I would have bent her over and just tried to kill her with my dick, you know what I mean? I think as a guy, you have to be aware of that yourself. If you've ever been in that situation where the girl is too available, doesn't fight, doesn't put up any sort of resistance or tussle with you.
No, I got one right now. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm just like ready to move to another state at this point because this chick is fucking crazy. But I don't know.
So you're saying that
I'm not the only one that sees it.
What, you like her or you don't like her? She's in a different state. What's the situation there?
No, well, she's in a different state of mind. So she's one of my friends' friends, and they both come into the bar a lot. And like, I don't know what I did to this woman to just like, if going back to the pedestal thing, if anybody's on the pedestal in this situation, it's me.
Okay.
And like,
so you're on the pedestal.
I'm sorry, what?
So you're saying you are on the pedestal.
Yeah, she put me on a pedestal.
Okay.
She put herself in a position where she ended up coming back to my place with me. And I just, like, even though I had been drinking, like, I literally fucked this girl for almost 2 hours just because I could not, like, I had to force myself to finish. I don't know if I just wasn't into it, if I felt like she was just trying way too hard, or what, but, and I've tried to be respectful since, in conveying that I didn't, like, it wasn't a one-night stand thing to her, but she's complaining to her friend about how she's so confused that I'm not, like, just, I think she has, this just weird sense of, like, I can tell probably she's thinking, like, she doesn't feel like she's good enough, but she still has this weird sort of confidence about her, where, like, I think because everybody just tells her all the time how adorable she is. And she's very pretty, but, like, I think when you hear that all the time, you start to believe it, as you should, because you hear it from everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned this to my roommate because does put out like some really just creepy, obsessive vibes. And I was telling him how like she'll sit at my bunk for like 4 to 6 hours easily, if not longer. And like I can just feel her staring at me. And every time I look over, it's like her eyes are trying to eat my soul. And it's like, it's unnerving. You know what I mean? And I'm like, for me, I make my money by being, like, if I'm not friendly, I'm not getting paid. I mean, I am, but...
Yeah, I know.
But you know what I mean. The more outgoing and personable I am with people, and especially women, the more, like, I think these 2 ladies tipped me 10 on 20. And right as they were sitting down, you know, my attention had to shift, one, because I have brand new customers, whether male or female, but it shifted away from her, and these were 2 very beautiful young women, and she told some friends of mine, she told these people that were sitting at the end, mutual friends, well, I know when I'm not wanted, and stormed out. And it's like I can't have that at work, you know what I mean? Like, this is my job. And I'm almost to the point where it's like I can't even keep, like, the thought of picking up women at work just, like, I don't want these headaches.
Yeah, well, you got to get rid of her. I mean, she's just bad news. You don't owe her anything. And to be honest, if you the sooner you cut her off, the sooner she can find somebody else to obsess over. You know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it was never my intention to hurt her, but I never like made that. And that's actually one of the questions here, because I was watching something earlier, and this chick was just laying into this dude about how, you know, he was getting a divorce. You know, she sees him even less now that he's separated, and I don't know why I was a little fucking attention, and then, like, that's a fine line. I think too much attention, you know, you send, either way, you send the wrong message. But
yeah.
I don't give her a lot of attention because I don't want to be her boyfriend. I don't want to be strapped down by anybody right now, and that has nothing to do with her. Those are my issues, and that's what I want.
Yeah, I don't. It's just I'm almost like tempted to just ask you, like, okay, so what? Like, why did you just get rid of her? I don't know. You just spent like 10 minutes talking about this fucking woman who's crazy and is creating stress in your life. Like, why?
Well, yeah,
why? You don't even like...
Like, she goes to the bar to hang out with her friend. That's how we met. And now it's like, I gotta kick her out of my life, which I get. But it's also maybe...
Okay, James, just say this. Just say this. Okay, so this girl liked you. You had sex. For a woman, if a woman likes you and then you have sex with her, that's like, it's a big deal, right? And so now she's, you know, pursuing you, making herself really available, getting snippy if you don't reciprocate the amount of attention she's giving you. Keep in mind, I almost never give women the amount of attention they give me, but there's a sort of a tipping point there. Like, if a woman's giving me, you know, let's say out of 10, like, so just the scale's like 10. With me, it's never 5 and 5. It's usually the woman is like 6 or 7, and I'm like 3 or 4. That's not even true. It's usually the woman's like 7 or 8, and I'm like 2 or 3. So, I think if I was married or something, I would probably be different. Just because we'd have like things that we'd have to deal with together. If we had a kid, we'd have to share, you know, the stuff you do when you got a kid. But like, you know, diaper duty or whatever. But like,
yeah, that's a different situation too.
Totally different situation. But my point is, if you're in a situation where it's like 1 in 10, right? Where you're giving her 1 and she's, or not 1 in 9, and she's giving you like 9 and you're giving her 1, like, you know, that's not good for anybody. And I think that in those situations, the best thing to say is just, I don't want a girlfriend right now. That's all. I mean, that solves so many fucking problems. And I stole that from a buddy of mine who's really good at what he does. Is he does the social circle thing where he'll just like sleep with a girl, then he'll sleep with all her friends, and he somehow manages to fuck everybody in a social network without like setting the house on fire. I don't know. I mean, he's really good at it, and I think obviously he has a lot of social intelligence. But he told me, he's like, yeah, I fucked this girl, and I ended up fucking her friend too, and now her other friend is texting me, blah blah. I'm like, how do you do this? Like, how do you like meet a girl who knows you fucked her friend, and then you fuck her, like, and do it fast, by the way, not like talking for months. Like, he's the guy that, like, he has a reputation at this point. And so women know that, like, he's someone they can hook up with. And for some reason, and they even know that it's not even going to be a secret. Like, they know that people are going to know that they had sex with him. And I asked him how he does that. Like, what does he do to sort of stay out of the boyfriend zone? This was years ago. I asked him, he's like, he said, what he does, he says, and this is not necessarily exactly relevant to if a girl's like stalking you or is obsessed with you, or you slept with her a few times and now she's like chasing after you. But what he said was, he'd meet a girl. He said a lot of times they already knew who he was and knew his reputation, which actually helped him. And then he would ask them, this is basically his game in a nutshell, he would ask them what they're looking for. And the reason why he would ask them that is so that they would ask him. And so he would ask them what they're looking for, and of course probably got some good intel, I'm looking for a guy who's this and that, or I'm not really looking for anything serious. I mean, that's good to know. You should always ask that, like, what are you looking for? In a sense, like just asking what your life is like, right? So, what's going on in your life? Where are you at? That helps with logistics and all that other stuff. But you ask them that, and you can get information. But for him, it was more about getting the girl to ask him the same question in return. And then what he would say to her, so what are you looking for? She'd say, da da da, whatever. And of course, with women, whenever they tell you what they think they're looking for, I mean, any guy with experience with women knows that you might as well probably just flush that down the toilet. But what his response then would be, so she would say her thing, and then she would say, so what are you looking for? And he'd say, well, I'm not really looking for a girlfriend right now. I'm just, I'm really focused on X, Y, Z. He's communicate thrust, in other words, his ambition, his goals, etc., which women find way more attractive. If he had said, well, I'm just looking for a girl who's this and that, that wouldn't turn the woman on. For him to say, I'm not looking for a girlfriend right now, number one, he's saying women are not my priority, and that is extremely attractive to women. When women are your priority, women are turned off by that. The other thing is, he's then, that gives him a sort of a segue into what he's really passionate about. Now, I know this guy, I don't really know that he has any real passions, but I'm sure he would talk about things. Not to say he's not passionate or intelligent or anything, but I haven't seen like any sort of real big picture goal that he's moving towards, but maybe he does have one, I don't know. So, in any event, I'm sure he would talk about something that he was working towards, and that would excite the woman. So he's doing a couple things there, obviously turning the woman on, etc. What would happen though is he set this precedent. Another word for precedent is frame. He set this precedent where she can't really get mad at him, right? I mean, how can she get mad at him if he decides, okay, we have sex, she wants to have sex with him because he's communicating things that turn her on. But if he doesn't want to commit or be monogamous with her or whatever, get serious, she can't really be mad at him. And I think for a guy who here's a feedback loop. Bringing it back to feedback loops. This might actually be, because what I wanted to ask you, James, is like, okay, so a lot of the stuff you're talking about with this girl and some other things, like, these are easy fixes. Like, you know what you need to do, right? But so what's the next level for you, right? How do I take you to the next thing for you? I mean, you might not even know what it is, but here's a feedback loop that happens with guys. So we go through our lives, you know, let's say, I'll talk about myself, being really shy, awkward interactions with girls. You know, I played soccer my whole life. Got to high school, I was really athletic, in good shape, good at soccer. Had like a 6/8 pack. You know, just was a fit, good-looking kid, but I was just socially just horrible. So girls would like think I was cute, and then I would talk to them, and they wouldn't think I was so cute anymore. And so, of course, that created a feedback loop, and by the time I was 23, 24, I was, even 25, I was like fucking horny, but really lonely, frustrated, depressed, miserable. To the point where I was like, why would I even get a job or go finish college or whatever? I can't fucking get laid. Like, girls don't even like why am I going to bust my ass to work, go to some job, or, you know, finish college and get some job when it's like, what's the point? I just want my dick sucked. Like, why would I go to, you know what I mean? Why am I going to go to work? I'm not even going to get a fucking, I'm not even going to get a handy for, who knows? Maybe never. I mean, that was my thinking at the time. So I just remembered my buddy calls hand jobs old fashions. No, I just thought of that. But he's like, he met a girl on the airplane after he did coaching with me. And I'm not going to say his name because he just got married to someone else, I think. But he's like, yeah, man, thanks to your coaching, I got an old fashioned on the airplane. Under the blanket. But, okay, so finally, I pushed myself, I learned how to approach women, step by step, you know, approaching, then it's escalating, touch, dates, sex, I would say once I got done with the approaching part and being able to, you know, turn a woman on sexually just by interacting with her, then of course they like me, and then now we're moving into, okay, so where's this going? And I would feel that pressure to get serious because the girl liked me. This was coming from my conditioning that said women want your resources. Women want a commitment. Women want a provider. Women want a guy who's going to put them first and be a good boyfriend. You know, maybe not necessarily spend money on them per se, but like make her the center. So I had those beliefs. I had that belief in there, and I had what happened was I had at some point I had so many women available to me that when a woman tried to tie me up and get more serious, I would actually get angry. I would start to resent her because I would be like, okay, so like we start doing boyfriend-girlfriend stuff, like, okay, we're at the art fair walking around hand in hand, and I'm looking at all these other girls, and I'm like feeling like I'm chained, like I'm in prison.
Like in a box, yeah.
Yeah, boxed up, like a house cat. That's how I felt when I lived with that one girl. Felt like a house cat. And so what would happen was I would get angry, right? I would start to resent them, and I would get angry, and I would sort of fight back. I would actually lash out. I would react in ways that were like inappropriate to was going on, which was just this girl liked me and she just assumed we were together and dating, and then here I am like getting pissy and fucking not wanting to have sex anymore and being frustrated. The reality was I just didn't want a girlfriend. It wasn't even, oh, now that I know I can pick up chicks, da-da-da-da-da, now I don't want to settle down. It was just, I was picking up women. I was meeting women because that's what I wanted to do. It had nothing to do with, I don't want to settle down because I know I can get other girls. It was simply that I wanted a lot of girls. And what I ended up doing was allowing myself to get pulled into these situations that were not what I wanted. And I had a few situations where, you know, I got snippy or got pissy with the girl, got angry, quote unquote broke up with her because I felt like it was either that or be miserable. Even though we weren't even together, I felt like, okay, if we're not boyfriend and girlfriend, then it's nothing. Then we have to just go our separate ways. It's tough to go backwards with a woman where you say, okay, you know, we're together, but I want to be less together and I still want to have sex. That's tough to do with a woman. It's easy to move forward, but it's tough to move backwards. But if you have to sort of set the right precedent right away, and that comes with being deeply honest with yourself. What's interesting, though, this is a big leap that guys are afraid to make. They're afraid to take this leap. And by leap, I mean just saying I don't want a girlfriend right now, saying I'm not interested in being, you know, relationship right now. And you're gonna get
absolutely necessary. Remember if I've said that directly to her, but I know that she's heard me say that to other women right in front of her. Like I can physically reach out and touch both of them, and the way she's always like the attention, she can't sit there and tell me. Maybe she didn't hear it, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like if she's at her best and I'm talking to another woman, you better believe she's listening to that conversation.
So if she the leap, there's sort of a, how can I put it? I want to say leap of faith, but that might be a little melodramatic. But there's two sort of leaps happening, or there's sort of this leap of faith where it's like, okay, I've been conditioned to think that women want to have relationships and they only want to have sex with a boyfriend. If you have sex with a girl, now you're together, going steady or whatever. Your job as a man is to provide and be a partner. If the woman wants you're this and that. You're an asshole. You're a jerk. You're immature. You're afraid to settle down. You're a boy. You're a fuck boy. You know, all these fucking words for a guy who just wants to fucking fuck girls while focusing on the more important shit in his life. It's like that's really the best. That's the way as a man you should be until you're ready to have a family and settle down. Even then, I mean, think about some of the greatest men in the history of in history. These men would have families, kids, blah blah blah, and then continue to conquer or thrust in whatever way they wanted to do.
Yeah, you wouldn't call John Kennedy a fuckboy. First of all, I hate that term.
You wouldn't call JFK a fuckboy. And then what kills me about that term fuckboy is no one knows what it actually means. A fuckboy is a homosexual in prison who is an openly homosexual, typically younger man who is available for gay sex, and he's a fuckboy. That's what a fuckboy is. It's not a guy who has priorities above women, but also likes to fuck women sometimes. People don't even understand what they're saying when they say that. But
man, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like Ratchet. Ratchet's another one that people throw around.
YOLO, you know?
What?
I figured it was like YOLO, another stupid fucking term I hate.
The one that killed me for people were throwing this one around when I was in Vegas was Ratchet. So we're so ratchet, but people don't realize what Ratchet is a fucking like a super ghetto female that will like just fuck guys. She's just basically a thought or a slut or whatever who's like real crazy and doesn't give a fuck. Sort of like a chicken head. That's what a ratchet is. Also, ratchet could mean like a gun, like your ratchet. It's a slang term for a gun. It's like a tool. It's your tool that you use to sort shit out. So when people were saying like, "Oh, we're so ratchet party," it's like what? But you know, people don't know what they're saying. But the okay, I'm gonna get a little rabbit hole conspiracy here.
That's fine.
There is a full force, unbridled agenda to destroy the fundamental nature of men. Like not to destroy the nature, but to undermine it. So anything that's basically and traditionally masculine is
under attack.
Immediately under attack. I'll give you an obvious example. Why the fuck do we have these bimbos being sports announcers and sports analysis?
God, ESPN is on fire right now.
Cam Newton.
Another one the other day.
I don't even watch TV anymore. I don't know, but Cam Newton got in trouble because some blonde retard. Okay, I'm sure she's a smart woman, but she's never fucking played. She's never ran a pattern in her life. So she's asking him about some pattern, and he starts laughing. He's like, "I'm sorry, it's just funny to hear a woman just talk about patterns or something." And he's right. It's crazy. What do you know about running a fucking pattern, trying not to get tackled by a 300-pound monster? You don't have any idea. So that's fine. Maybe she's into football and she's good at what she does. But why do we have to have... It's almost like it's affirmative action. Why do we have to have a fucking female always, every goddamn game, no matter what sport it is, there's always some blonde who's fucking in heels, trying to put in her 2 cents, and no one wants to hear it. At the end of the day, no one wants to hear it, right? If I wanted to look at a hot blonde in heels, I can look at some pictures of chicks, or look at porn, or I can fuck my girl. That's not why I'm watching football. But that's just one example. But you'll see a lot of different things going on, and when you open your eyes to it, it's fucking scary. Like it's really like that movie They, where the guy puts on the sunglasses and everybody's like a skull zombie thing. You open your eyes to this shit, it's really fucked up. And when a guy simply wants to do what comes natural, which is, I have goals, I have things that I'm moving towards, those are the most important things. It's almost like a conceptual or a spiritual intention. But then, of course, I have my primal desires as well, but those aren't my priorities. When that's how you're operating, you will get so much hate, so much resistance. There's all kinds of words for you, like we said, fuckboy, player. But there's other things that people have been saying for the past few decades. And the big one is he's a boy. He's still a boy. He's afraid. It's this bullying.
Oh my God, talking to older women when they call you, you're still a baby.
Right.
Fucking, that drives me insane. I'm almost to the point where it's like, I'm just going to walk away. And I get, like, she's testing and teasing, and over time, like, I get it now. But, man, it's still, even to this day, I don't let it bother me as much as it does, or did, but, I mean, that's another just...
Well, women...
I get that from men, too. Like, oh, you're still a baby. You're wet behind the ears. That's one I used to hear a lot when I was a kid. I mean, that's more of an experience thing, but it's still like, I mean, if I don't have the experience, wouldn't it make more sense to, like, help build you up and bring you along?
Okay.
Unless we have some sort of,
here's
or whatever. But
so I'm going to sort of calibrate your radar to detect when this kind of thing happens, so that it doesn't bother you. You just see it and you just disregard it. And that's really what you want to do. You don't want to be angry, right?
No.
And so the easiest way to pick up on the agenda, let's just call it that, is their primary modus operandi is projection. So when a woman calls you a baby, she's the baby. And here's what I mean by that. Women, especially in Western culture, specifically United States and UK and Canada, women are treated like children. And they're treated like children on an intellectual level. They're treated like children financially, except now it's like illegal to do that. So they still want to be, treated like children financially, but they also want their equal pay stuff. So when you think about a child doesn't understand compromise. A child doesn't understand anything beyond their emotions. So, for example, one thing you see a lot in the dialogue now, socially, politically, etc., is when people have their feelings hurt, that's like a reason for something for policy. Because my feelings were hurt, so we should change the law. Another example of this would be with women. They want equal pay, which they're guaranteed under the law. But of course, they don't want to be like sewer cleaners, right? They don't want to be deep sea welders. You never see a female garbage person, plumber. I mean, anything that's a dirty, tough, physically demanding job, or a job that's going to require a job that carries a certain amount of physical risk. You won't see very many women in those jobs. It turns out those jobs tend to pay better because you're getting compensated for your pain and suffering or your risk. So it's a
Absolutely.
I
have that with one of my bartenders at work. Like, I hate working with her because it's not. She wants to split everything equal, but she doesn't want to do the dishes. She doesn't want to bust the tables. I clean the bar at the end of the night, and I'm a little upset with myself for enabling her to this point. But she's new. She's still so new to where it's like, and now my boss is seeing it, and he's just like, well, she's probably going to be gone soon anyway.
Yeah, you got to pick your battles. I mean, that's.
I'm not getting worked up over it because it'll fix itself eventually.
You definitely want to pick your battles. I mean, I definitely had to keep my mouth shut about certain views I had while I was in the States. Right now I'm in Asia and say whatever the fuck I want. Well, it's funny. So yesterday I'm in the cafe and this girl, I think that lives in my building. There seems to be in this where I'm at. There's a class of Asians from Japan and Singapore that are and China that are really wealthy, and they come here and it's very much like if you were to go to LA and you'd have like the super snooty white folks. There's definitely, I picked up on it, and they sort of look down on the native people that live where I live, and just understanding psychology, understanding human nature, being aware of my own ego. I'm extremely friendly and accommodating. I tip. I'm very nice to people. I'm very patient with everybody. And it's easy because the people here are really friendly and very good people. So this girl spills her fucking coffee we're like sort of at a bar, like a cafe bar kind of thing. So she spills her coffee. The coffee's flowing towards my notebook. I snatch it up real quick. Of course, the workers come out. They start cleaning. But this little fucking retard sits there and continues to drink the rest of her coffee and is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But then she's like sitting there not doing anything. And I grab a paper towel and I'm like helping them clean and da-da-da. And she's just sitting there. And I was like, I said just something like, oh, you can just get a paper towel and clean now. I said something like that. Like, not like, what the fuck are you doing? But like, oh yeah, now it's your turn to help out because you made a mess. Like, okay, you can grab a paper towel, just wipe that up right there. So, what you'll see is, like, a lot of times women will act like babies. And they'll play that game and try to get away with getting the most with the least amount of effort. And the way to respond to that kind of behavior is not to get mad, because then you're going to look like a jerk and everyone's going to be like, oh. So the way to respond is simply to take the lead. Say, like, for example, if you know, this girl that you're bartending with is not, she wants to split the tips, but she's not carrying her weight because she doesn't want to do the dishes or whatever. Just tell her to do the dishes. Don't say, hey, will you fucking do the dishes, please? Like, what are you doing? Instead, just say, okay, so tonight, like last time I did the dishes, so tonight you go ahead and do the dishes. Do you know how to do them? Okay, cool. So here, just make sure that you dry everything off and set it right here. And then we can split our tips at the end of the night. So it's not you're not asking, you're not getting angry, you're leading, you're just instructing. What you'll find is women respond very strongly to that, very strongly. They don't even think. A big part of it is that women don't like to think. So, in order to clean up the mess, will require some thinking. She didn't want to think. To wash the dishes will require some thinking. She didn't want to think. So it's not even so much that they're trying to screw you over. It's not a malevolent thing. They're trying to get the max they can get without thinking. And I don't know fucking why. Because I like thinking. I'm just wired that way. Maybe there's a lot of guys who are different. They don't like thinking. I mean, of course, there's a bunch of retard guys. But for some reason, I guess it's just how they're wired. A lot of women just really, really don't like to think. And I know that sounds super politically incorrect. I don't really give a fuck. It's true. And I've seen this with smart women. That's the funny thing. I pretty much only date like smart women. I can't even tolerate stupid women unless they give great blowjobs, and then that's fine. But I can't tolerate dumb people in general. Okay. But even smart women, even women that I know for a fucking fact are really intelligent, very conscious, very aware, sharp. They don't want to think, and especially around a man. That's vacation time. I mean, it should be. I actually chewed a guy out on, I didn't chew him out, but I kind of was pretty raw with him on the Facebook group. You know, because he might have seen it, but
I'm almost sure I know who it is, but yeah.
Yeah, Nick. So I let him have it a little bit because, you know, sort of a wake-up call. The women hang out with us because they want a vacation from life. I used to tease girls. I used to tell them, like, I should bring this one back, but I used to tell girls that they were on a dick vacation.
I like that.
Yes. But you know, that was sort of my little phrase or whatever. I'd tease them, I'd tell them, put them on a diet plan and that kind of thing. But like, she doesn't want to think. She just and they respond so powerfully. It's not even like they just fall in line. You tell them what to do and they just do it. I think it's just because they don't want to think, and they're also they like how it feels to surrender to a man. And it's not submission. Submission, we throw that word around, submission, but submission is where you force someone to give up control. Surrender is when they do it voluntarily. So women are constantly looking for ways to surrender. That's why when I talk about embrace, you know, inspiration, which arouses you, excites you, gets your attention. That could be heels, that could be the way she walks. Her very nature is to grab your attention. Nurture means to take care of you, to sort of, I literally picture a woman inspiring my erection and then taking care of it with her hands, her mouth, appreciating it, really just wanting to keep that boner going. That's what the nurturing is all about, and that's I use that physical metaphor, but it's also about cooking for you. It's about being there emotionally for you, having your back, whatever that means. Even if you're low on money or something, kicking in, helping out. A lot of guys are really good at leveraging that. And will sort of almost seduce a woman simply by getting her to care about them and take care of them. And then the surrender part is sort of, okay, she's got you all, you're sacked up, you're manned up now. You're at the height of your masculine expression, of your masculine form. It's kind of like your final form, like as a man. And that's when she wants to surrender to you. So women are wired to do this. And when you don't give them that experience, you're not only letting them down, but you're asking them to be something other than what they are. And that's our society in a nutshell, is asking women to be things they're not. Women are fucking miserable now. This whole feminist thing, oh, you're liberated. You get to work 9 to 5 too. Well, it's really 8 to 6 now, isn't it? You get to work 8 to 6 too. You get to worry about a 401k and fucking getting laid off just like everyone else. Great. You're so liberated. And women are fucking miserable. They didn't want to do that. They got suckered into it. And
thanks, Mom.
Yeah, well, it's not even the boomers themselves. There was a plan to do this. You can go back to cultural Marxism. You can look at certain groups of people who came up with, different organizations. The feminist movement has a certain group of people that are sort of behind it. What's that?
It's basically they have their agenda just like the same agenda that's happening to us.
Exactly, yeah, they have an agenda. So it's the agenda, and it's really just, it's a, without getting too crazy, I believe it's actually a cosmic agenda that is sort of an anti-life agenda. And then, that can start to get weird. So, I don't want to go too far into that, but there's a the universe has positive and negative, right? And so there's always going to be, I think, there's always going to be this aspect, this dimension to reality that's something we fight against. That kind of gets back to, the creating the barrier for ourselves of sex. And I've thought about this before, actually. I think that a lot of times strong men, let's just say men in general, create problems for themselves that are big enough to stress you out and to kind of make you wake up and grab and get going, like, oh shit, I better handle this, or I'm going to be homeless, or whatever it is. But not insurmountable. Like, I will do things, sabotage my life, that I don't need to do. But then my life is a little harder, and it's kind of a challenge, right? Like, you don't want to play a video game on easy. And I think that the negative aspect in this universe is almost created, you could say it's maybe even created by consciousness or God or whatever. It creates its own nightmare, so that it can wake up and then go back into the nightmare and wake up again. Sort of a dance of duality, right? So I wonder if you maybe want to think about when I hear you talk, you're talking about this girl seems to be stressing you out, etc. There's literally nothing for you to do there. You just don't do it anymore. Don't interact. Don't talk to her. You're creating it in your mind. Now, sure, is she sitting there? Is she getting pissy? Does she know your friends, etc.? Yeah, but the discomfort is yours, and there's literally nothing you need to do there. And you're turning it into a thing. And I did a talk in Chicago a long time ago where the whole point of it wasn't the best speech I've ever given, but the whole point of it was we're creating games for ourselves, and so it's a matter of what game do you want to play. And I suspect that a lot of guys who struggle with women, are frustrated with their sex and love lives, are choosing that because it gives them something to overcome. It gives them something to fight. Because we don't have anything anymore, right? Like, what do we fight now? I mean, unless you're in the military, there's nothing. So, what I think a guy will do is he'll create this imaginary video game in his mind of, I have to do everything right, I have to seduce the girl, I have to do it in 10 minutes, I have to say the right thing, I have to get this certain sort of result, da-da-da-da-da. It's almost like achievements, unlocking achievements in a video game. I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. Well, no, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to get her to laugh. You don't have to get her to like you. You don't have to really do anything. How much of what you think you need to do you really need to do? Versus how, like, what obstacles do you think you need to overcome? And I really question that. Do you need to overcome? A big breakthrough for me was, I need to get the girl to like me in order to have sex with her. When I realized I didn't really actually care that much whether a girl liked me, I just wanted to see her choking on my dick. Like, that's what I wanted. I didn't want her to, like, make a list of all the things she liked about me. I wanted to fucking blow loads in her mouth. That was my fucking whole breakthrough, was like, I actually don't care whether women like me. When you question that, am I setting up some mini game within the bigger game that's completely unnecessary? And if you are, it's okay, you can own that. Like, I do enjoy approaching women and making them smile and making them feel good. I like it. I also kind of like pissing women off. I just like getting reactions. The game that I was playing, though, was trying to get her to like me. And then when I realized that that wasn't the actual thing I wanted to do. Now, of course, women do like me, but not because I'm trying to make them like me. There's other things, you know. Can I get through all my relationships? Sort of like the Hitman video game, where it's like, can I get through with total stealth or whatever it is, you know, where no one notices me? It's like, can I get through all my relationships with women without getting into an argument, or without creating drama, or without making her cry? That's like an achievement unlock. Isn't really necessary. It's just sort of it's like a bonus, right? But it's not, I mean, who cares? And that gets back to sort of the whole fear and taking the leap when it comes to letting women know you're not interested in having a girlfriend right now. Because they will get pissed off. I mean, I have made women cry when I've told them, like okay, we slept together for a while, dating, whatever, and they'll say, so, you know, do you want to be more serious? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not in boyfriend mode. I don't want to be in that role. I don't want to be sort of accountable to you. I don't want to be feel like my whatever I've decided to do next is now something that, you know, we need to agree on versus just something I fucking do because I want to. And then, of course, the girls start crying and feel real. She's not getting what she wanted, or so she thinks. And you have to be willing to let her be pissed off, let her cry, etc., and then just carry on. And usually things will just go back to how they were after she's done with her tantrum. So, being willing to upset women is I think, sort of the next level, where a guy, okay, gets the approaching thing handled, women like you, you know, you can connect with them, you can communicate with them in a powerful way, you know, having sex is no longer a big struggle, women will get in a relationship with you if you want to. The next level is being willing to piss women off, and I think what happens is guys will get to that level and they'll be afraid to piss women off because they're still conditioned by society to treat women essentially as children, and to think that whatever you want to do as a man is wrong fundamentally, and that what women want you to do is right, which makes zero sense. And so they'll be afraid to piss the woman off, and that's when you start to get the lying and the game playing, and that's like the cheating, you know, where you are afraid to piss her off. So you say, okay, fine, she's my girlfriend, you're my girlfriend now, but you don't really want that, and so you're trying to still do what you want on the side without her knowing, and now you're lying, and it's a big mess. And it's because you weren't willing to upset the woman, because you were playing a game of you were playing like a game within a game. Can I get through the next 3 months with this woman without making her cry, without pissing her off, etc.? Just stop playing that game. I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't piss her off. Maybe she does start crying, maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's okay with it, maybe she's not. Maybe she stops talking to you, etc. None of those things are things that you can just choose to not play that. So whatever happens, it's fine. I mean, the problem is that you want a certain outcome, and if you don't unlock the achievement, then you're like, fuck, I have to do the level over or whatever. It's a sense of failure. You can't fail at something that you're not playing. So just stop playing that. Stop playing games of like, you know, I want women to like me. Stop playing the game of how can I get through this without making her upset at me, without making women mad at me. You know, a lot of that gets back to your mom, you know, when your mom gets mad at you. I almost feel like for most guys, I know there's exceptions where the dad is abusive, but for most men, I think it's the mother who's real nasty to you. The mom is the one who's mean to you. Yeah, my dad was never physical with me, except one time in high school he tackled me because I was being crazy. But he never hit me. My mom was the one who would slap me in my face, would spank me, would scream at me, would just terrorize me psychologically throughout my whole life. It's the moms. Yeah, and you know, you gotta. I heard a comedian a while back. It was a black guy who was talking about why, you know, he was talking about how the crime rate with African Americans is so high, and how black males just commit like an ungodly amount of crime compared to, like, it's disproportionately ridiculous. I mean, it's insane. And he's like, why is that? You know, who's raising these kids? He's like, yeah, it's the dad's absent, but who's not absent? Who's there? It's the moms. They're raised by their moms. And he was like, it's the dad that calms everyone down, that keeps stability, that brings strength without shrieking, right? And so for guys, I think most guys, there's a terror of being, of a female being angry at you. Scary. You know, I'm nowhere near as scared of a male being angry at me. I mean, angry in the sense of like, okay, we might have to fight. Yeah, sure, my adrenaline goes up. But if a guy just thinks I'm an asshole and I think he's an asshole, it's not a big deal. But if a girl really dislikes me, like that actually bothers me more. It still does.
Well, and that's the problem. Like, if you and I got into it, even to the point where it was physical, we'll put our hands on each other, and that's fine. You know, like, society's not going to freak out.
Right.
But you can't, like, you know, that's a scary thing to think, like, if this chick gets out of line and starts getting physical with me, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's that fear as well.
You know, it's funny. Let when I was in college, this girl was cussing me out. I stole a keg from a party and took it to another party, and I was real proud of myself, and I was drunk. And I was like, yeah, man, da-da-da-da, I got this keg. And this girl comes up out of nowhere. She's like, you think you're cool, but you're not. You're a fucking loser. You're this and that. Like, out of nowhere. It was weird. And I put my hand, I sort of stroked her hair, and I said, you'd be real cute if you would just shut the fuck up. And I, like, face slammed her into the damn yard we were standing in. Just, like, whack, just wham, just threw her down. And, of course, you know, a bunch of guys tried to come to her rescue, and then I had my buddies with me, and we had a standoff, and then we ended up leaving. And, honestly, that was one of the most satisfying moments of my fucking life. I didn't physically hurt her. I'm sure she was fine. I didn't actually cause any structural damage or bruise her or give her a bloody nose. I just smushed her down onto the ground. And she deserved it, and it felt really good. And I've never done anything like that ever again, but there's, I think, part of why women are so crazy now, especially with all this feminist stuff and Me Too and screaming rape and all this stuff. Of course, that stuff happens, but I think there's a segment of females that are just off the rails, and it's because they've never. There's not even the threat that they could get manhandled or maybe just set down, you know, or slapped. I mean, obviously, no one wants to go around slapping women, but like Sean Connery was interviewed by Diane Waters a few years ago, and he said, like, look, sometimes, you know, if a woman won't shut her mouth, it's appropriate to slap her. And obviously, this is Sean Connery. He's not going around slapping anybody. But
no.
But the fact that he will, or at least he maybe would have back then, I'm sure. What's funny is I bet that actually turned women on, and they would never want to admit it. But I bet there's an aspect to that element, just knowing that this man will check me if I get too crazy. That's exciting to women. Again, it gets back to that leadership stuff. But obviously, I'm not advocating any of that. But it's sort of like that's so not even on the table whatsoever anymore, that you do have women acting in a certain way to where it's almost like they're invincible. I mean, I can even think about my mom, who was maybe 95 pounds, just being an absolute psycho to my dad. Absolute psycho. Just, you know, if this is a dude, I mean, you're fighting. But she would just do these horrible things to him. And he was, I gotta give him credit for, like, never getting physical with her, ever. Just keeping his cool, keeping controlled. But, she definitely deserved, you know, she deserved something. And so, that didn't help her. It just encouraged it. It made it worse. So, I don't know, man. It's interesting. Big picture stuff.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see this one was going forward.
Yeah,
how that plays out, you know, because like you're saying, there isn't even like there's a fearlessness that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's a fearlessness. I don't know. There's a lot of anger, also, because, you know, of course, there's all this sort of like men have always sort of been in control as long as we, at least in recorded history, or at least in the past 5,000 years. So now that it's like, how can I put it? It's sort of like, you know, it's sort of like a little kid. It's like a teenager or something. You know, your parents are the boss. Your parents tell you what you can do, what you can't do. And they go out of town for the weekend, and you just act fucking crazy. Get all your friends come over, you know, you're doing whatever you want, making a mess. You know, of course, I mean, that's what teenagers do, right? When the parents go out of town for the weekend, oh, party at, you know, Joe's house or whatever. And it's just sort of a backlash, right? It's just feeling like feeling tied up for so long, and then having freedom. I mean, shit. As soon as I got out of my relationship, like of 3.5 years, first thing I did was go to Dominican Republic, and I fucked like 30 women. You know, I was a madman. And I think the similar thing is happening with different groups. You know, women, gays, blacks, definitely in America at least. And that's fine, and I don't even, not even mad at it. I understand it, but what will then happen though is there's how can I put it? These movements, or this sort of this uprising, or this wave of emotion gets hijacked and channeled, or you could even say weaponized. So an obvious example of this would have been Black Lives Matter, where, okay, they're upset, unarmed black folks got killed on camera, so that means it must happen a lot just because it was on camera, despite the fact that it actually doesn't. But people are upset. You got the history of, like, slavery, racism, Jim Crow, all these things. Well, that movement gets... I can understand as a black person feeling like you're second class. A lot of that just comes from being a minority. But, nonetheless, it's legit. It's a real, it's a real feeling. It's there. When you picture an American, you don't really picture a black person, right? You picture a white person. So, I can understand the sentiment, but then it gets fueled and flamed and sort of weaponized, and now you got riots happening in black neighborhoods. So, you're fucking up your own neighborhood. Another thing that started to happen was cops were so worried about being accused of racism that they actually stopped policing. And we saw a huge uptick in homicides in urban areas because of that. There's a group that was behind Black Lives Matter. No one fucking knows about it. They're paying people to fan the flames. And it ended up fucking up these communities through rioting, and then also through less policing, where now more people are dying. So that's one. Another one would be the transgender thing, which is obviously not even a real thing. There's no such thing as a transgender. There's just males and females, but it got so crazy that you had like this demon insect thing reading children's books in a library to kids. Just this hideous satanic person was just dressed as like this scariest thing I've ever fucking seen. It's sitting there reading to kids, and then people saw that and they said, whoa. Okay, it's tough to think you're in the wrong body and to have these sort of psychological difficulties, but you got fucking antennas coming out of your head, you look like a demon, and you're reading to my kids. You know what I mean? And so they get these movements, these feelings get hijacked and weaponized and channeled in directions that serve a certain group of people that aren't necessarily, number one, don't even really need any fucking help, but number two, are almost like nihilistic in the direction they want to go. If you take their logic and their mindset all the way, we're all basically slaves. And so it's not a human agenda. And I see this because I'm in marketing, right? So like I do a lot of marketing, and when I see movements, emotional waves that are sweeping through people, you definitely want to capitalize on those if you want to make money, right? So I just see it all as there's definitely an agenda. And when you start to see it, it can piss you off for a little while, but then there's a point where you can just look at it and disregard it. And then you don't get pissed. I think that's why a lot of Americans are so fucking angry all the time. Because they know something's wrong. They know that the American people are just like this cow that's being, taking slices of beef off this fucking cow to give to the rest of the world. And we know this, but we're not sure why or how it's happening. And so it's frustrating. We're just pissed the fuck off. And once you start to realize how and why it's happening and the whole process behind it, you can start to just sort of check out, just opt out of it, which is, as best as you can, you try to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like I do a decent job. I don't, it's like, I tell people, so I'm not from Denver. I'm a Giants fan because I grew up, I'm from New York. And, it's like, these fans here just they're fanatics. They're fanatical. I tell people, I can't get emotionally invested in something I have no control over.
Right.
So, that's sports, but it's also, I had a little emotional breakdown a few weeks ago.
Just to interject real quick, do you understand that's why Americans love sports so much? Because
they don't. It's like the roller coaster thing.
They have no control. They know they have no control, and so with sports, it's like they can.
It's a release.
Yeah, there's this feeling of like, if I just analyze the team enough, if we watch the game, if we root for them, if I wear the jersey, even though you know that there's rationally, that you have no control, every fandom itself is all about control. It's all about metaphysical, alchemical control. You're waging spiritual warfare. It's really, to be a fan is not to ride the roller coaster. To be a fan is to try to control. That's what it's really all about. We have no fucking, people feel like they don't have control. And so that's why sports is so appealing. And that's why you get people who are fanatical. Think about fanatical. It's like, if they knew that they really didn't have any control, and that was like, they really felt that way, they really just felt like they were out of control of it, do you think they'd be as fanatical?
Well, they'd be me.
Exactly. So, like, I don't get upset at the sky if it rains, right? But if I felt on some level like maybe I could have done something to stop it from raining, I'm going to get a little emotional about it, right? Fuck, I could have, we shouldn't have let that water evaporate. I don't know, it's a ridiculous example, but it's, you'll hear this when people like talk about the game, like, oh, only the fucking Tom Brady would have just thrown it to the fucking guy, and it's like,
we would have won.
Yeah, right? We. Yep.
Huge. I guess I never really thought about it like that. But
huge waste of money. It's a huge waste of money, and it's a religion. It's a spiritual. When people there's some crisis or some shooting or something, our thoughts and prayers. Humans we believe in magic. Sports is all about magic. We believe in magic. Why else would you put that jersey on and sit there in front of the TV and get all amped up? There's a part of you really believe that you're sending energy into those players to make a certain outcome. It's all about control. It's not a roller coaster. It's all about believing that you're a magician. That's what sports really is.
That actually kind of makes it a little worse for me. But, no, I get that. And, well, I need to think about, like, with politics, too.
Right.
You know, and people that lean super fond of whichever side they're part of. Like,
you're in super liberal.
Wow.
You're in super liberal Denver.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, you have no fucking idea probably how excited and happy Americans are when the president tweets some fucking crazy shit. You see all the responses are like, oh, he's stupid, we have a baby in the White House, orange fucking retard, da 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 da. That's because Twitter is fucking throttling positive tweets. They're totally controlling it. It's 1984, 100%. That's happening on YouTube as well. But when Americans feel like their president is actually talking to them, and he makes a joke about the Oscars, he had a tweet today. I was rolling for like 5 minutes. He said, Oscars are terrible. There are no stars anymore, except your president. Kidding, of course. We love that because you feel like it's giving people a sense of control. That's what populism is. It's where the common people, the plebeians, are the controllers. They have the say, not the elites, not the academics, not the politicians. The plebeians, the lower and middle class workers are the ones who have say. Now, whether that's true or not, you can make arguments both ways. He's definitely got a lot of Goldman Sachs banker type people in there, and this and that. But the feeling of he's like your friend, and he's actually like paying attention. He's making the same kind of jokes you're making, you know. When he said shithole, I mean that's what we say.
Yeah. That's
what we say, right? I say shit. I mean, oh, why do you want to go to Mexico? It's a fucking shithole. That's what we say. That's how normal people talk, and they don't the agenda elites. They don't fucking get it. They don't understand it. There was another thing he said that was like, oh, when it turned out the fucking 4 deputies, who I guarantee the FBI told them to stand down because the whole thing was staged, but you got these 4 cocksuckers who were standing outside this school while kids are getting shot and bleeding out. Right, they're bleeding out. EMT's not allowed to go, and these faggots are fucking standing there, not going in, okay? All of them have guns, all of them know, I mean, by the way, they were doing red flag training exercises leading up to this random shooting, right? So these guys have been trained on crisis situations, right, on school shootings. Tell me a fucking police department that is not trained on school shootings. I mean, it literally, that's part of being a cop now. So they're standing outside. So Trump says a thing. He says, coward. He calls them coward. No, I don't even think he called them cowards. He said something. He was like, I would have gone in whether I was armed or not. And I can't remember if it was a tweet or something he said verbally. Of course, the elites, right, are like, oh, he's full of shit. He's lying, da-da-da-da-da. What they don't realize is that that's what you and I would have said at the water cooler. That's what you and I would have said, you know, at the when I took my car into the mechanic the next day, and I say, you hear about these fucking cops, and then, well, shit, I would have gone in. I mean, those are kids, you know. Yeah, I would have too. I mean, that's how regular people talk, and they don't get it, and that's why people are so fucking thrilled. And I think it's dangerous, to be honest. I think it's a little dangerous to be so thrilled about him and not be critical, because he does. You know, there's been some things that I definitely don't like, and they completely get glossed over by the right, because we're so fucking thrilled finally to have a real guy.
Well, for most of us, I mean, historically, Reagan probably, I was never really, I mean, I was born in 79.
Yeah, I was 81, so I mean, I don't remember much, but, you know.
Yeah, and, you know, with the internet and news now, but, like, probably as a country, most of us haven't seen that since going back to Kennedy, I would say.
Did you know that Kennedy? I think he only lasted like he didn't. I don't even.
It was only 3 years.
It was 3 years. Yeah, it wasn't even 4. He didn't even make. Yeah, I mean, I knew he wasn't reelected, but I was shocked to find out he didn't make it to 4 years. They killed his ass.
He was elected in 60 and killed in 63.
That's right, 63. I know that. November 22nd, I think too. Actually, I think that's the right date. But you know, he's just pissing everybody off. I mean, he didn't want the Jews to get nukes, right? And then he fucking wasn't playing game. He wasn't playing ball with the CIA and all that kind of stuff. And he didn't like the Fed either. I think he was going to reissue some sort of silver-backed currency, or I can't remember exactly how it worked, but yeah, they got rid of him real fast. He was yeah, man. And then Lyndon Johnson, piece of shit. I think Lyndon Johnson was behind that. Well, I don't think he was behind it, but I think he was their puppet.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah. Anyways, one thing I've been talking a lot about with my buddy Vader. Actually, you probably know who Vader is. He's on a couple products. He's a Marine, and or he was a Marine, and now he's gonna be a either ICE or Customs. So he's gonna be a head knocker for. I think, to be honest, I don't think ICE is really about immigrants so much as it is about human trafficking itself. Like, if you look at the human trafficking, the sex slave, no one will talk about it. And most of it is ICE. ICE is the spearhead for that. So I actually think, he thinks he's going to be grabbing up immigrants. I actually think he's going to be grabbing up pedos. But he's in a bit of a jam because, you know, he lives in this college town, and every girl he meets is this fucking brainwashed commie retard. And he's just having a lot of trouble. I mean, he literally told me the other day, he's like, I can't even get my dick up for liberal chicks anymore. So like, it's everywhere. And there's this frustration as a man of like, once you open your eyes to this stuff, there's a phase where you're angry, right? There's a phase where you're frustrated. You just have to recognize what it is, and now is the time for leadership. Now is the time for, instead of getting annoyed or getting pissed off, be the one guy in the situation who says to the female, okay, I'll wash the counters, you do the dishes, and we'll split the money up later. I mean, it's that. It's we don't need to talk about emotions. We don't need to talk about how we feel. We don't need to talk about what's fair and what's not. That's why, and I saw this coming. I saw this coming back when I started GBD 4 or 5 years ago. That's why I said go beyond. Because I saw the end of the seduction and pickup artist stuff. I saw that was going to... The feminazis were not going to allow that to continue. The liberals, the fucking... the agenda folks, they were not going to allow that to grow into anything other than a men going their own way, sort of self-imploding, just masturbatory bullshit direction. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And I knew that it was going to splinter off in that direction, and then it was going to splinter off in the other direction. It would have been more about literally go beyond dating. Let's get past how do I get girls, and let's focus on the bigger things. And when you focus on the bigger things, then the girls want to... Then that's when they're looking at you. It's just like in that Chris Rock movie where his boss said, what did he say? Something about when you focus on money, the girls come with it, but when you focus on girls, you don't get either one, or something like that. But the whole point of Thrust is all about the vision, the moving forward, having your priorities in order. You'll see a lot of the responses I give in the Facebook group now. A lot of times, instead of saying, well, you could have said this or you could have said that, a lot of times now I'll say, like, you know, get a workout in, read a good book, you know, take care of yourself, find something more important to do than obsess about this chick. I mean, most of my responses now are like that.
And truthfully, too, two things that I appreciate about where you're at as far as your training and coaching. One is after I went through sexual supremacy, and I rushed it a little bit, especially probably book 3. I've been feeling like I'm going to need to give another listen. Because I tend to focus on the first 2 books a little more on the re-listens. But one thing I noticed was that helped me take, because my focus right now isn't so much pickup as it is getting my personal and career life, thrusting that forward. And I would notice when I was paying attention to those things, like I was actually like pushing women away. But the other thing, like I still get emails from like Van, and I signed up for, I got something with Gotham City, and I still get emails from, what's his name, Craig? I don't know if you know.
Yeah, his real name's Brett. I mean, those, you know, he has good stuff, but he's a marketer, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'll read these emails, and, you know, I can probably put my Gmail right now with how many chicks are you banging? Because, you know, like the lingo, like, it's not so much about, like, that kind of stuff.
Well, I'll show you the matrix again. I'll show you another way this plays out. And I know Brett, Craig, and he's a good guy. And I only promote his stuff because he offers a money back guarantee. And the platforms we use, you don't want to fuck around with that because you'll get booted off. You won't make any money. So I will promote someone's stuff as long as it's not completely fucking retarded, as long as they have that money back guarantee. Because who am I? I don't have time to go through it. You know, if I'm cross promoting for someone else, I don't have time to go through their products. I don't want to go through their products. If I'm getting emails from guys saying, "Hey, I bought this thing, it's garbage, whatever," I say, "Okay, fine. Fuck this guy. I'm not going to do business with him anymore." But they have the money back guarantee, so you can get your money back, and you could probably actually keep the product as well if it's a digital product. The thing you have to understand when you read those headlines or you see those emails.
Well, that's marketing.
Of course, it's marketing, but you have to understand like who's that marketing to. So think about this. For me, if I'm banging 2-3 chicks concurrently, I'm not trying to bang a bazillion girls. I'm already probably tired. So it's the guy who's not banging anybody that wants to bang a zillion girls. You understand?
Mm.
I had a student one time. It was a live coaching thing. It was in Miami. It was a smaller Asian guy, and I've coached a lot of Asian guys who have self-defeating beliefs because our culture kind of paints Asian guys in a certain way, and so they kind of internalize this. They see themselves as good students, good workers, not necessarily, you know, guys who fuck chicks, right? So I've had a lot of guys like that, but this particular guy he probably shouldn't be in the gene pool, and I really hope he's not, because he's a piece of shit. I mean, not a piece of shit, but he had more estrogen than testosterone. I almost wonder if he was maybe, you know, secretly gay or something. But this guy was not doing anything. And out of all the students, I had three or four students that weekend. You know, and it was a mix as usual. One guy was a military guy. One guy was actually into kickboxing and MMA, and he was cool. And so, you know, the other guys were just like, you know, I'd like to be able to like meet a girl if I see her at a store or walking on the street or at a bar. I'd like to be able to, you know, make a connection if it's possible, instead of chickening out like I always do. And that's great. That's every guy, and that's a good skill to have. It was the fucking weirdo who was probably just not even on the playing field, who his goal was to be the lord of the club. just want to walk into the club and girls just flock to me and everyone sits next to me and wants to hang on my every word. That was his goal. So this is a guy who's like not, he's so far removed from reality. He has zero grounding with real females. Just wonder what his living situation was. I suspect, you know, at home in his parents' basement. He was the one who wanted to be the lord of the club. The military guy and the MMA guy were like, I just want to be able to meet a girl if I see her, you know, in a situation where it's possible. You see the difference? So, like, for me, I'm not over here thinking, man, I want to fuck a zillion girls this year. I'm thinking, like, you know, I want to find somebody that it's fun to be around and gives great blowjobs and can cook, you know. And that's the guy who's actually in the game. You know what I mean? So when you read those headlines, those are headlines to guys who have nothing. And most of my headlines, I try actually to not target those people because I don't think most of my tribe, I don't think are guys like that. I think they're mostly solid, smart guys who understand that this is not so much about fucking as many people as possible, but is more of, it's almost just like a life skill. It's like, you know, I can cook that's a social skill. It's like I can, you know, I'm going to cook spaghetti as soon as I get off the call with you. You know, I'm going to make some spaghetti. I got to fry up the beef, noodles, jazz up the sauce a little bit with some extra garlic and butter, whatever. And I can do that. If I need to if I need to drive somewhere, you know, I can drive there. I can obey the traffic laws. I can use the mechanisms of the car to get there. If I get a flat tire, I can change the flat tire. And in the same way, if I go to the store and I have time in my life for someone, and I see a girl that I'd love to fuck and maybe find out if she's also fun after we're done fucking, I'm able to approach her and make that happen. It's just a skill. It's like driving a car. It was funny. I was at a marketing, you know, I do there's the dating boot camps where you coaching guys and stuff, but I actually did a boot camp where I was learning some marketing stuff. And I was sort of, it was like a hot seat where they sort of focus in on you in front of everybody and you sort of work out some of your business issues and stuff. And I was like, you know, I love helping guys. I feel like I'm a big brother to my guys. Sort of the big brother that I never had. And I really feel like what I'm doing is positive. But intellectually, it's not very challenging anymore. Because I've been saying the same things and, you know, improve and tweak, etc. And I said, you know, really being able to meet and connect with women in a sexual way is not, it's about as hard as driving a car, like to work. And everyone like laughed, and I saw people like looking around like, whoa, pretty offensive. They're like, that, you know, it's like, I can't believe you said that, you know. And I was like, it's funny that people had that response. I mean, it just shows you how brainwashed everyone is. That the idea that as a man, you could have the skills to do that, or as a man having the skills to do that, is bad, or is offensive, or, ooh, is that okay? People were looking around like, oh, what do you think? Is that okay? You know how people, when they're uncomfortable, they don't know if they should laugh or not, and they're sort of looking side to side. It's like, but then if you say to a woman like, you know, if you want to get men's attention, like, you know, get a push-up bra, get a nice tight skirt, some heels, a little makeup, get a nice hairstyle or whatever, smile more, you know. Everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, of course, yeah. So, but as a man, if I say, you know, having an opener that you can come up with, you know, something you say, break the ice, get it going, communicate the things that are going to make her horny for you, and really just max out your odds of putting your dick in her. Oh, is that okay?
goes back to the nature thing. Like, of course it's okay. Otherwise, you stop to exist.
Yeah.
On a base level. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know. I think a big part too is a lot of us are just distracted over bullshit, you know, in our daily lives. And to think outside of the box, it's almost like women not wanting to think, but putting everybody in that thing, like in that category. To think outside of the box sometimes, it's exhausting.
Yeah, most people don't like to think. I sometimes wonder, well, I get paid to think. I mean, think about that. Like, I literally get paid to think. And not just with, like, the dating advice stuff, the coaching. I also am a marketer, so I am working on marketing campaigns for businesses in totally different fields, financial, advisor stuff, fucking auto loan stuff. I mean, I got a bunch of things that I'm doing on the side that they're not on the side necessarily, but it's different than this. And in those situations, I'm also getting paid to think. So someone will pay me to think of good headlines for their thing, for their campaign, whatever it is. So for me, what?
That's not an easy thing. I dealt with that when I was in school for my graphic design degree, coming up with certain things. And
right. So
to be creative like that, I mean, it's exhausting. It's
exhausting, but I find it's energizing as well. I enjoy it. I love the challenge. It's fun for me. Now I'm not trying to sound cool. My point is, I don't know how normal it is for people to want to think, because I fucking love it, and that's all I do. And of course I do it way too much, and in the evenings I definitely need, you know, a few beers to like fucking tone it down, like time to relax. But I have always enjoyed thinking, and I don't know how normal that is. I don't know how common that is. I know with women it's not common. Even with smart women, they don't seem to want to think, or at least around me. So obviously I'm biased, because when they're around me, it's a different dynamic than if they were at work or whatever. Among men, also I'm extremely biased, because who are the men that I interact with? Who are the men that are my friends? I mean, my friends are the smartest people I know. And my guys, you know, guys that are on my, part of Go Beyond Dating, whether it's in a group or have gone through a program or a product or something like that, these are people who want to think. These are not guys who are saying, you know, I want to get girls, but I don't want to think. So I'm going to try to get as much money as I can. I'm going to spend 3 hours in the gym every day. You know, none of that stuff really works all that well anyway, but it's a different approach. It's a guy who says, you know, my strength is thinking, and I think I can think a solution here, right? I'm paying someone to think so that I can think better. And so that's really what my whole life is just everything around me, whether it's a woman or whether it's how I make my money or whatever it is, it's all because I'm thinking. That's my strength. And so I don't know how normal that is. Probably not that normal, but
I wouldn't say it's that abnormal either. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it is. And I think with men, I think men are natural problem solvers. I think men like having something to think about. So I don't know where I was going with that. I got to get off the phone. I actually have got to get a couple of things finished still today. But is there anything else you want to touch on? I mean, I'm chilling here, man. So it's like, if you want to talk about something else, we can talk about it. But I probably got to wrap it up within like 10, 15 minutes max.
No, actually, it's getting pretty late here too. And fortunately, I did cut the weed out of my life. So,
Are you feeling better about that? You feeling good?
I mean, I went on a bit of a bender this weekend. I played in a full tournament, and I don't get weekends off, so I just fucking raged. And now, like, I think I might have caught a little bit of this flu that's been going around, and hopefully it's not coming back, because it's been slowing me down. But as far as, like, I got a lot of shit done today. I sat down and, I wrote down everything I wanted to do, and I did about 80% of it. So, I mean, as far as being motivated and being able to get things done, that's definitely helped. I think physically still, between fighting this cold and then just being super hungover yesterday, but,
Oh, you were drinking?
Sorry, what?
You were drinking during the pool thing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, were you high during pool? Because I would get so fucking confused with any sort of game if I was high trying to play. Would have been hitting the wrong balls.
Yeah, I'm somewhat used to it because it's just standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here today thinking that last match when it got knocked out. Like, I don't even remember my opponent or what table or any of this. And I'm trying to tell my roommate, no, I won one, right? He's like, no, you were. I was like, no, how can I remember? I'm missing a chunk of time there.
Yeah.
But, that happens.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I avoid liquor. I don't do liquor.
No?
Nah.
Don't drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, and beer makes you fat, and I definitely see it the next day, like my gut will be bigger, but I just can't do liquor, man. It makes me too crazy. I lose track of things.
I noticed that too, because I was drinking a lot of Guinness. I told the guys, I'm going to keep it light, because a lot of people don't understand Guinness actually. It does have a lot of other shit, and I was definitely feeling good Monday.
Yeah. Well, get your hands on some cocaine.
That was part of the problem too.
Oh, really? I was just joking, but I haven't done any of that in a while.
I was just a facilitator. I did not even have it around this weekend with my buddy. It was I was kind of proud of myself for a little touch of this.
Yeah, it's tough for me to turn on too because I like to be on. Like, I like to have energy. But I take this stuff sometimes now if I need to have a huge day. I'll take stuff called modafinil, which is it's a pharmaceutical. It's very hard to get a prescription in America legally because they don't really know anything about it. But what they give it to Air Force pilots so that you can just be on fire for 16 hours. So I'll pop one of those with a fucking cup of coffee and I'll just be an absolute animal. But two or 3 days of that in a row and I'll just fry myself and have to sleep for another 2-3 days. So I got. But the things that get me energized and fire me up, I get really addicted to those. I'll just latch onto it and just do more and more and more. So I have to be careful with the uppers, the stimulant stuff. I just like feeling on, I'm hyper, limitless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Let me get off the phone here and do some other stuff. I'll upload this on. Did it work okay on Skype, or do you need a link to Dropbox? Which one was better for you?